Hey guys, I'm Dov, and it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to Total War Warhammer 2. Yes, indeed, this is the first of many, I'm sure, online battles in Total War Warhammer 2. I have taken the Dark Elves. As you can see, we are facing up against a High Elves opponent, and let's just take a minute to take in the beautiful scenery here. These maps are looking really good. All the troops here looking excellent as well. Darth Malekith looking pretty good, and all the Dark Elf troops looking absolutely fabulous. So let's go ahead and take a look at the army builds. This introduction may take a little bit longer than usual just because this is a new game, so there's a lot to explain. So we've got Malekith. He's up on the dragon, which of course gives him armor-piercing weapon strength. He's got lots of abilities, probably more than I'm going to go through right now. I may make a separate video talking about Malekith, but he does have some really nice buffs and debuffs. He also has a spell that deals direct damage and is good against enemy single model targets and will heal him in return, so that's very nice. The front line here is a mix of Black Ark Corsairs here in the center. So these guys are a very good, cost-effective unit. They're only 600 gold, and they've got 80 armor, which is decent. No missile block chance because they do have dual swords, but they do have an anti-infantry bonus, although they lack armor piercing. If you combine that with their anti-infantry, it goes to 14 weapon strength, which is definitely decent. 36 attack, 28 defense. Decent stats all around. Only a 16 charge bonus, which isn't great, but hey, you know, that's alright. We've also got one on each flank of these Witch Elves, which the key ability to pay attention to here is that they actually have Rampage imbued on their melee attacks. In other words, any unit that the Witch Elves get into melee battle with, they're going to be locked down in combat because they'll go berserk and basically just continue to fight the Wood Elves, and you won't be able to control them at all. So I've paired them up on the flanks with these Dread Spears, just in case my opponent brought something like, Dragon Princes or some other elite cavalry. We could potentially lock them down with the Witch Elves and use the anti-large of the Dread Spears to bring them down. As it is, my opponent's gone with a fairly heavy infantry build, so it won't be super pertinent, but we'll still be able to lock down high-value units potentially. I've also got two Dark Shards with shields. These guys are excellent. They've got armor-piercing missile damage. 125 range is pretty decent. They're also shielded, which means they'll trade very well in a missile exchange. I'm going to miss-micro them at the beginning here, but we'll be bringing them up later on in the battle. I apologize, I don't have my telestration tools on. Haven't turned them on for this game yet. Over here in the forest, we've also got two units of Cold One Knights. These guys are very good. Anti-large armor-piercing weapon strength. They don't have great combat stats, but a 56 charge bonus is great. 90 armor as well. They also cause fear, and they do have the primal instincts, which means they'll go berserk. And instead of routing, oftentimes they'll go berserk and just continue to fight and rampage, so that's pretty good. Of course, the Dark Elves do have the army-wide Murderous Prowess as well, so we're going to be looking to kick that off. You can see already doing some nice damage from my opponent's Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. This thing's an interesting unit. I haven't really tried it out too much, but it is potentially anti-large and anti-infantry with the two different types of ammunition. His front line is all just basic spearmen. He's got a rear line of Lothern Sea Guard, which are a very interesting unit. They're a bow unit, have excellent range, as all High Elf archery units do. These guys also, however, have decent melee stats at 22 attack, 44 defense with the martial prowess active. They also carry spears, of course, so they've got a bonus versus large, charge defense versus large when being charged from the front. An overall, very useful unit. I'm not sure I would take them in this specific matchup, but very interesting. My opponent's also got two Flame Spire Phoenixes. These guys are pretty interesting. They do have some bombs and some other cool abilities. We'll probably take a look at them sometime here soon. But if we can take a look, yep, they've got this Wake of Fire, so it's kind of like a bomb spell. Not crazy wildly effective, but they can potentially regain hit points as well. Some other good stuff. My opponent's forces are led by Tyrion himself on his mount, and Tyrion's definitely a gorgeous looking model, one of the best in the game. But unfortunately, I don't know that he's going to be super competitive in multiplayer. He lacks armor-piercing weapon strength. He has amazing combat stats and 125 armor. However, the lack of armor-piercing is a bit of an issue for him, definitely. So, especially against someone like Malekith, who has very heavy armor. Let's go ahead and kick things in full gear. You can see I'm bringing up Malekith on this flank, just trying to bait out a little bit of fire here, because this is a serious firing line, and I'm going to take a lot of damage coming in. Even though these Black Ark Corsairs do have 80 armor, they don't have any kind of missile block chance to speak of, so they'll be eating all these arrows right to the face. You can see some very nice damage going down across the line. These are actually Witch Elves over here, so they don't even have the armor. They'll just take arrows right to the face. You can see they've already lost about half their HP, more than that now. And you saw that cone spell go down. Did about half, maybe not half, maybe 40% HP to those Lothran Seaguard, as well as disrupted them from firing. That's a bound spell of Malekith's. Doesn't cost any Winds of Magic, and a very useful spell overall. So we'll go ahead and kick things into high gear here. Let's zoom in and take in some of this cinematic action as these Black Ark Corsairs charge in against the Braised High Elf Spears. Some beautiful cinematic action here. Unfortunately, no blood DLC quite yet, but that will be coming soon. You can see I'm pulling around my Cold One Knights to the flank. He's responded with his Phoenix, which is a bit of an odd pick because these guys do have anti-large armor piercing. You can see once they turn around, they're going to do a ton of damage to the Flamespire Phoenix. And over here you can see what I'm talking about in terms of the spearmen going into the enrage. So now my opponent can't micro them at all. He can't pull them back or try and reposition them. Granted, this is just a defensive unit of spears. It's meant to just hold anyway, but potentially if he had brought like Dragon Princes or even Silver Helms or something, I could sick them on there and then get the Dread Spears on, and they wouldn't be able to cycle in and out. So you can see Malekith has come in, landed on this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, and the Murderous Prowess is about halfway there. We'll go ahead and kick things back into full gear, but all these Lothran Seaguard are going to turn around and start shooting into Malekith. Even though they lack armor piercing in the traditional sense, with enough unit models and enough time, they'll do damage to him, so he's got to be careful in this situation. As well, when he gets into melee with them, they're going to pull out spears and deal anti-large damage, so he's got to be careful there. You can see we're starting to collapse this flank, just bringing in the Cold One Knights, pulling away from the Phoenixes, and just trying to tie down these Lothran Seaguard because they were shooting the crap out of Malekith. You can see he's already very, very low, actually going to rout off at this point. So tough situation. However, we do have the Dark Shards online, and they have armor piercing, so any of their missiles that get unblocked are going to do a substantial amount of damage. You can see my opponent very wisely pulling away his Phoenix to tie down the Dark Shards to keep them from doing that damage. But these Cold One Knights just continuing to cycle in and out. You can see that one volley took down about 10 plus unit models. But in the mainline fight, the Black Ark Corsairs, they definitely took a beating on the way in here. But now the Murderous Prowess goes off, and let's go ahead and take a look. So, with Murderous Prowess active, it lasts for 90 seconds, plus 15 leadership, and a plus 25%, note that this is a percentage and not a flat buff, of melee attack, charge bonus, 20% armor piercing, and 30% vigor. So that is an absolutely massive buff. And you can see here, despite being tied down, my Dark Shards are still able to fire in somewhat, getting some really nice damage done on the Lothran Seaguard. And with the Murderous Prowess up and active, it's going to help our guys in this front line. You can see the Black Ark Corsairs actually came back from rout and get a nice charge in here, start dealing their anti-infantry damage, and this flank has collapsed really hard. Now we're getting in on these Lothran Seaguard, getting the enrage on them so they can't continue to fire. And at this point, the balance of power is slightly in my opponent's favor, mainly because we've lost a lot, and Malekith is very, very low, whereas Tyrion is still very healthy. So Malekith is just going to try and hang around here outside of the range and not get killed at this point, while we just continue to mop up the infantry fight. Tyrion's going to come in here and try and deal with these Witch Elves, but, I don't know if this is a really great spot for him. Will he actually fall under the enrage? Yes, he does. So Tyrion now actually getting locked down by these Witch Elves, and he's tied up in Dread Spears, Witch Elves, all manner of stuff, just not able to be microed to where he needs to be on the battle. You can see we're just pushing through. At this point, a lot of the High Elf forces are actually routing. We're starting to tip the balance of power back in my favor. With this main kind of center break here, we're able to push through, and the Murderous Prowess is still active, meaning my forces will continue to charge through and just pursue these High Elves, and it's definitely going to be a tough day for them. Some of the units trying to rally here, and you can see the Phoenixes continuing to try and deal with the Dark Shards here in the back, but they're just, with their relatively decent melee stats, 22 attack and, 20 attack and 22 defense isn't absolutely terrible. It's not great, but the Cold One Knights actually on Rampage. They are getting onto a Flamespire Phoenix, which is very nice. You can see this is the spell I was talking about that heals Malekith, called Soul Stealer. So basically it deals damage, and I haven't really tested it too much to see how much damage it actually does, but it deals damage in this area of effect, and then it will heal Malekith actually for the, you can see him being healed there for the damage that's being done. So that's very, very nice spell on his toolkit. I really like that one. It's quite expensive, but, you know, very useful to have a way for Malekith to heal himself. Definitely makes him one of the more competitive lords. You can see some Warhammer Seaguard rallying, a lot of the High Elf units rallying, but they're so scattered at this point, and Flamespire Phoenix landing in and among these Witch Elves is going to get locked down by the Enrage here, not be able to be microed. At this point, too, Tyrion's getting very, very low, surrounded by the Cold One Knights, and he is going to rout. So, well played to my opponent. Very much enjoyed that battle. That was actually my first quick, no, not my first, second quick battle on the game, and it's a ton of fun. I got to tell you guys, Dark Elves are awesome. They are really, really good. They have a ton of cool options. I love the utility of these Witch Elves being able to lock down units like that. Dark Shards weren't super useful in this battle, but I can potentially see these guys being absolutely game-breaking. Malekith himself, in the guys I brought him, is very expensive, but definitely worth it. He got a ton of work done, took a lot of fire, and was still able to pull through in the end. Dread Spears, you know, doing okay, and the Black Ark Corsairs as well, despite getting heavily shot up, were able to shine in that combat. The Cold One Knights as well, man, I love these guys. That Enrage mechanic is awesome, because even when you lose control of them, you know, they're still going to go after different units and chase things down and just rampage about. So as long as they're getting in on the right units, you can see both these units racked up quite a few chevrons. So that's absolutely excellent. Very much enjoyed that. For my opponent's forces, just not getting the kills across the board that he needed to. Those Lothran Seaguard were able to be effective, and if they had been able to take down Malekith without me pulling away when I did, you know, it might have turned against me if he had been able to get a nice leadership break there. But alas, it was not meant to be. So well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day. And since the old factions haven't quite been added to this game yet, I'll probably continue with number 1 as well, just to splice in some of the old factions until everything gets combined into one, you know, kind of one package. So stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.